Steelers coming up against the Miami Dolphins. They were able to essentially get a game and a half lead with the huge win over the Ravens. But just a week before that, against the Buffalo Bills, it was doom and gloom. Steelers had no chance to make the playoffs. The Ravens had an easy schedule. There's no way the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. This is going to be Mike Tomlin's first losing season. And the crowd was booing Renegade, and the crowd was chanting Fire Tomlin out there. Because, I mean, it was a historic day for the Buffalo Bills. I ain't even going to lie. It was horrible. It was pathetic. I mean, they gave up the most yards in history in Acrisure Stadium on the ground. And when Derek Carmen's not in the game, there's obviously a big difference. He's on the possibly make starting this game for Miami. There's a lot of defensive linemen injured for this game. Benton, Harmon, TJ is ruled out for this game. Cam Hayward is on the injury list as well. So this is a team that's, especially with Harmon out and all these defensive linemen out, have been having trouble stopping the run. And you can go all the way back to last year. The Pittsburgh Steelers have had trouble trying to stop the run. So that's why they went out and used a first-round pick on Derek Harmon. That's why they went out there and used a pick for another defensive lineman in the first draft. And essentially, which most people would probably say the problem with this team is the offense, this team went out, the brain trust, and went out and basically invested all their draft capital in defense to the already highest paid defense in the NFL, which, to be honest with you, to me, has not been living up to its pay grade so far. I mean, they're getting gashed all year long on the ground and through the air. And as of late, I think it's been coming together a little bit better. You got rid of Darius Slay. You got rid of some of the biggest issues within the secondary. You went and got Duggar after the Elliott injury, which was a big injury for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's been playing great. You're able to pick up a Jabril Peppers. You're able to pick up a Asante Samuel Jr. So we'll see where this secondary goes, and we'll see where the offense goes, because a lot of people are getting down on Austin. And, like, I really did some research about Austin, and it's surprising to me, like, how much the secondary's given up through the air, honestly, because Terrell Austin has done a lot of work, especially in terms of secondary defense. He's been a defensive backs coach. He was basically the secondary assistant and defensive assistant for the Steelers in many different jobs throughout his career. So that's basically his specialty. So I think, you get Asante Samuel Jr. in here, and maybe, if a few of these different players, the secondary is going to get better. The biggest problem is, the running game, and the Steelers giving up yards on the ground, especially when Derek Harmon's not in the game. And Miami is a team that's been running the ball pretty good this year. Got a really fast running back, electric running back, a lot like James Cook. And to me, this Steelers defense is kind of slow. You got a 3-4 defense. Like, Archan can get the edge on whoever's our outside linebacker. Maybe Herbig might be able to run him down. Maybe Queen might be able to run him down, but I'm going to have to say Archan's got to step on Queen too. Peyton Wilson might be the only one. So if anything, might want to give a lot of looks to Peyton Wilson in this game. I don't even know, to be able to match up with Archan and be able to cover him, because he's a unique talent with his speed. I'm sure. I don't really look at his reception yards, but just with his speed in an open field, I guarantee you he can make plays happen. So he can make plays happen in the running game and the receiving game if you let him get loose. And Steelers can't do that. And if Steelers lose and the Ravens win, we're back to being tied in the division. I think the Steelers will hold the tiebreaker because they won the head-to-head, but you're tied, and then you have a tough game up against Detroit and then Cleveland, and then you got to play Baltimore again. So basically, you lose this game, you let Baltimore get right back in the division. And, I mean, Steelers fans are still calling for Fire Tomlin. The media has walked off it, at least for this week. At least for this week. They're back to, giving Tomlin credit, giving Tomlin praise, saying, he's keeping us in the season, he's keeping us alive. They flip-flop on their take every day. And, I'm a Tomlin defender, but the lack of playoff success, I mean, it gets to the point where the people who do, are against Tomlin and want to see him fired, I mean, their point is starting to stack up more and more each year. Mike Tomlin doesn't have a playoff win. And if they don't win this game, Ravens are right back in it. And, I'm a defender, and I've been saying he's a Hall of Famer, and I've been standing firm on that hill. But let's just say, for argument's sake, Tomlin somehow, blows this like he's been known to blow it. Late season collapse last year, had a division lead, blew it. I think the year before that, had a division lead mid to late in the season, blew it. So, I've been stacking up his resume. I really did a lot of research about Tomlin and the coaches and their resumes. And, Tomlin's up there with some of the best. There's no denying it. You can't deny it. You can come at me with any argument. Oh, the only reason he has that many wins is because he's coached so long. It's not true. He has a better winning percentage than most of the coaches that are ahead of him on the all-time winning list. He's tied for top 10. He wins this game. He's top 10 alone by himself. He gets 10 wins this year. He ties Chuck Noll. Steelers have what? They're 7. Can they get 3 wins this year out of 4? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. 9-8 wins his division, but I mean, we got Miami, we got Cleveland, we got the Ravens. I could see 3 wins right there. I could see at least 2-2. So then what? Next year, Tomlin's going to come and pass Chuck Noll all time. Because is he going to get fired? Probably not. The Rooneys are not going to fire Mike Tomlin. But I will say, as a defender, with all of that, the resumes and everything like that, he blows this again. I might have to start to say Mike Tomlin is not a Hall of Fame coach. I'm not going to continue to say he's a Hall of Fame coach because, I'm projecting, he has great Hall of Fame resume, this and that, just great regular seasons. But eventually, while you're rebuilding, eventually you got to build your way into a playoff victory. And it's becoming a theme to where, okay, it's Kenny Pickett's fault. Okay, it's Justin Fields' fault. Okay, it's Russell Wilson's fault. So what? It's going to be Aaron Rodgers' fault this year and the offensive coordinator's fault. And whose fault is it going to be next year? Whose fault is it going to be the year after that? So that's what I'm saying. Because like Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, their resumes stack up very similar. Very similar. 2-3 years ago, I probably would have gave the edge to Mike Tomlin and said Tomlin is a better coach than Harbaugh in my rankings, NFL rank. Like if I do my head coaching rankings, if I did an official rankings, whatever, Harbaugh would be ahead of Mike Tomlin right now. 3 years ago, I would have had Tomlin ahead of Harbaugh. Sean Payton, he left the league for a couple years. Now he's back, and look what he's doing in Denver. That's another coach that's resume stacks right there very close to Tomlin. Right now, I'm going to give the edge to Tomlin over Sean Payton. But Sean Payton turns this Denver franchise around that's been looming ever since pretty much Peyton Manning left, and he turns this franchise around, and he gets them into the playoffs, and they start winning some playoff games and actually start contending for Super Bowls. I'm going to give Sean Payton the edge over Tomlin. And the way it's trending right now, the media and everybody who hates Tomlin is going to make that case. Just like 4 or 5 years ago, the media, I was saying, was crazy. They was trying to make a case that Sean McVay is better than Mike Tomlin. And I'm not going to say that. But the way he continues, just like Tomlin, continues success with the Rams, Look what they're doing this year. Looking like they're on pace for a playoff win this year, the Rams. One of the best teams in the league right now. Matthew Stafford playing at an MVP type level. I might already give the edge to Sean McVay at this juncture of their career. It's very close, very tight. I'd say they're neck and neck even. Tied right now. So who's going to win a playoff game this year? Sean McVay or Mike Tomlin? I'd say most experts, most opinionists, most writers, most bookies, most odds makers are going to say the Rams have a better chance to win in a playoff game this year than the Pittsburgh Steelers. The homer in me believes that the Pittsburgh Steelers can win a playoff game. But that's like we're neck and neck right now. Sirianni's coming up on Mike Tomlin. And then you got Pete Carroll, who has a resume very similar to Mike Tomlin. So let's say Pete Carroll, I don't know, They're not doing good this year with the Raiders. He'll probably hang it up after this year, might get fired because the Raiders, they're reactionary and they make changes, major changes every year, and they can never find any sort of stability because the Raiders are just a joke of an organization. That's why they have to move cities every 10 years. But Pete Carroll's right there. Now I'm going to give Tomlin the edge. But I mean, honestly, if we say career-wise, I'd say Pete Carroll's probably a better coach than Mike Tomlin. But we're talking a straight NFL resume, and we're going to go off that for the Hall of Fame. Tomlin's got the edge over Pete Carroll. And then I can pull up the graphics, and I can get on my StreamYard, and I can, pull up the stats and everything. And people will still argue against it. And Tomlin's going to pass Chuck Noll. But to be in the Hall of Fame, you have to be the best, I'd say, of your generation. Top 3 of your generation. Now, Sirianni's creeping up with Tomlin. Harbaugh is probably pretty much surmounted past Tomlin. But Tomlin wins the division this year and gets a couple playoff wins. Then I might say he's neck and neck again with Harbaugh. And then we're going to have to go. So this is where the resumes and the stories are still being told. And everybody wants to project. And as a defender, I'm going to sit here and say, the haters, they have a point. What is it? 7 years without a playoff win, 8 years without a playoff win, 9 years without a playoff. How many years is it going to be without a playoff win before, okay, we're going to stop accepting 9 and 8 every single year, which I don't consider mediocre. You could call it mediocre. I call it being competitive in a very competitive league that wants it to be that way, that is built and made to be that way. And Tomlin does get them competitive, but eventually your moves got to get you over the hump. And with all these moves in the offseason, the criticism is fair. For them, the Bills to run for the most yards in Acrisure Stadium, the boos and the fire chants are fair. Because you have the highest paid defense in the entire league. You used all your draft picks on defense. You made all these moves, and your defense is getting shredded, like and split. So, do they fire Tomlin? Probably not. But you can elect not to give him a contract extension, and you can move forward. And that's been kind of my position. I'm not going to sit here and yell fire the guy, but as a rebuild, when you're rebuilding, you got to see steps, progress, progression, moving forward. And, I don't agree that he's 9 and 8 every year, because if you go look back at it, he has a lot of 12-win seasons, a lot of 10-win seasons, a lot of 11-win seasons, a Super Bowl, been to 2 Super Bowls, 8 playoff wins that people want to erase. They want to erase the fact that he's been to 2 Super Bowls and just say, oh, let's just erase that whole part of his resume and say that doesn't count, and look at this resume. He sucks. Okay, that's not the case. But how long are you going to remain stagnant before you want to see growth? And it's time to see growth. And the growth, to me, in my opinion, this year is a division win and a playoff win. And we're right in line with that. But if they lose to Miami, the Ravens are right in line with the division win. And Harbaugh taking one more step ahead of Tomlin in the resume, and putting him at that much more of a tier ahead of Tomlin. So to where I'm going to, if we don't win the division this year and don't get a playoff game, I can't continue to say Mike Tomlin is a Hall of Fame coach. I can't. And I'm a defender. I think he's a good coach. But this stagnation, you're letting people catch up to you and possibly leap you. And that's a fact. And that's the bottom line. And I'm a defender, but, I'm going to keep it real too. Unlike the haters who, like I said, they just want to chop off half of his resume and just show you the bad part, which this last 3, 4, 5 years, it's not been bad, but it's been stagnant, and it's time to see some progress. Like I said, progress is winning a division and winning a playoff game. You went and got Rodgers. You made all these moves on defense. You paid TJ the big money. You brought Cam in here. I mean, there's no other more common denominator of why we're not getting over the hump than the head coach. How many more scapegoats and how many more people are going to get the bullet before it's time to say the message is run stale and we need to move on? So, I mean, do I think we're going to win a playoff game this year? Do I think we're going to win a division? Yeah. But Miami is a team that can run the ball, and the Steelers are very injured. And I haven't predicted the Steelers to lose a game all year. Steelers haven't lost a Monday night game in 22 straight games at home or something under Tomlin or some shit. But, man, if Harmon don't play, Cam don't play, TJ don't play, Benton don't play. Last time we were in Acrisure, they gave up the most yards in Acrisure history. It might be a long day for the defense, and it might be a long day for Tomlin, and it might be another Fire Tomlin chant and Boo and Renegade chants in Pittsburgh. Because there really ain't no excuses. You went and you got all this depth now. Time for Stoyer to step up. Time for Yaya Black to step up. Time for some of these defensive linemen you drafted that you cut to step up. Coming off the practice squad. Who are we going to put in there if these guys are hurt? DeMarvin Lill, people you cut and passed over. It's like you cut and passed over Mason Rudolph I don't know how many times. Cut and passed over Kenny Pickett. Cut and passed over Russell Wilson. Now you're on the Aaron Rodgers kick. So when is it time to cut and pass over you? And it's a legitimate question. And at this point, the criticism is fair. And it's time to see progress. And I'm tired of seeing stagnation with the Steelers. So this is my live for today. And I'm going to cut it.